Welcome to the Weeklyish 7 minutes, 1 tip, sometimes with prizes. I'm Marc Schelske, and this is a video resource for your growing intentional life. Good afternoon, Internet. It's Friday, and today on the Weeklyish 7, I'm giving away this Amazon Kindle Paperwhite, never opened box in just about 5 minutes. Stick around for that. But first, 1 tip for your intentional spiritual life. Now, last week we talked about being present and how important this is to your emotional growth and your spiritual growth. And today's tip is one way you can start training your brain to be more present, maybe even more aware of God's presence. Now, how many times have you tried going to bed and you just couldn't sleep because of all the brain noise? You get in bed, it takes 2 hours to unwind because you're processing that difficult conversation with a coworker or worrying about the bills. It's normal to think through your day when you go to bed, but it's not helping you be more present. It's not helping you get a good night's sleep. Here's why. When you sleep, your brain is doing something incredible. During this time, while you're snoring, you don't even know this is going on, your brain is sorting through the sensory content of your day. As you sleep, your brain's consolidating what you've learned. It's filing your memories and honing in on the most important parts of them. It's making connections and it's making meaning. This is how God created you. You go too long without sleep or without effective sleep, your thoughts get more cluttered, your perception of the world gets more skewed and more inaccurate, and you begin to experience all kinds of health issues. So sleep is really important for an intentional life. It's what enables your brain to be at its best. But there's something really powerful you can do when you understand this. Your brain starts this process of sorting and connecting with whatever data is most present. So when your head hits the pillow, whatever's front and center for you is what's going to get your subconscious attention first. This is what your brain's going to be chewing on and sorting through and making meaning from. So think about that. When you went to bed last night, what was the last thing that you thought about? That's what your subconscious mind worked on. So if you fell asleep thinking about that difficult conversation you had to have tomorrow, or the fight that you had with your spouse, or in a place of worry or fear, that's what your brain worked on all night. So what if you took control of this process? What if you gave your brain something positive to work on while you were sleeping? There's this discipline that I've learned called the last 5 minutes. This is how it goes. Whatever you want your brain to focus on, give it that for the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep. I'm not talking about an hour before you go to sleep and then you brush your teeth and then you get in bed. I mean the last 5 minutes just before your head hits the pillow and you go to sleep. Whatever it is that you focus on then is what's going to be sorted, filtered, and consolidated by your subconscious mind the most during the night. So here's some very practical things you could do with this. For example, if you're a student and you have a big test in the morning, simply visually scanning your notes for 5 minutes before you sleep as the last thing that you do will allow your brain to work on that material while you're sleeping. I'm not talking about cramming. I'm not talking about trying to memorize things. I mean just visually scanning the pages. This has actually been demonstrated in lab studies to improve retention and recall. Or if you have a big problem you're trying to solve and you just cannot see a solution, think through the problem before you go to sleep. Don't focus on the obstacles or what's going wrong or all the problems. Think about the solution that you want, and while you're sleeping, your brain will be working on that problem for you. I can't tell you how many times I've woken up in the morning with a solution or a great idea because of this practice. We can also use this tool as a way to increase our presence and our sense of awareness of God. If you spend the last 5 minutes before you go to sleep focusing on God and God's presence, that's what your mind will be working on while you sleep. It's common for those of us who are prayers to pray before we go to sleep, bedtime prayers. But our prayers at bedtime are often about our circumstances. God, please help this money come through. God, please help tomorrow's meeting go well. Things like that. And that's not really focusing your mind on God. That's focusing your mind on your problems and your obstacles. Focusing on God would look like thinking about God and God's character, thinking about who God is, reading passages of Scripture that focus on God's power and presence and wisdom and promises. Praying not about our circumstances and what God can do to change them, but praying about God's presence and being aware of God. If you've got lots of worry occupying your mind, this is going to be tough for you. You might need to set aside 20 minutes before you get into bed to just journal through your worry. Make a list of the things you're anxious about so that you can acknowledge those things and process them and set them aside. You can't do anything about them while you're sleeping, and so there's no reason for you to focus on them as you're falling asleep. You want to give the last 5 minutes to an intentional practice of focusing on the things that matter to you. In this case, focusing on God's presence or God's care for you or God's character of love or promises that God made in Scripture. Now, by doing this, your subconscious mind will begin processing this content, essentially praying on your behalf while you sleep. Now, that might sound strange to you. It's not a new thing, though. Nearly every ancient culture knew that sleep was a powerful tool and a way to connect with the divine. And the Bible talks about this as well. The Bible talks in several places in the Psalms about meditating day and night. Well, how do you meditate at night? Well, this is one of the ways you do it. Job 33 3:15-16 says that in the night, during sleep and dreams, God opens the mind of men and gives them instruction. Brain and sleep research that's happening right now is only just beginning to confirm the power of sleep, something that the Bible has claimed to be real for thousands of years. So today's tip: make use of the power of your mind during sleep by taking control of the last 5 minutes and giving your brain something good, something positive, something spiritual to work on. If you practice this every night for 3 weeks, you will see a difference in your attitude, in your sleep, and in your sense of God's presence. All right, on to the free stuff. I started this giveaway 3 weeks ago hoping to grow my blog subscriptions. I had 84 people following my blog back then. As of this moment, I have 156. That means 72 people signed up in the last 3 weeks. That's great. Thank you so much. It is so encouraging to me to know that there are people out there who want to be more intentional in their spiritual lives. You are who I want to serve, and I'm so thankful and so grateful that you're giving me a chance to build into your life. Now today's giveaway, it's simple. Everybody who subscribed since last week's video and everyone who referred a subscriber are in my bucket. The name that I draw is the winner. So let's do this. The lucky owner of the new Kindle Paperwhite is Tammy Blankenship. You're also going to get a copy of my new book, Discovering Your Authentic Core Values, only you'll get an ebook version to start your ebook collection. I can't promise that I'll give away something every week, but I can tell you that every video will have one practical, simple tip that you can use in your growing intentional spiritual life. And if you like that content, on my blog, there'll be a traditional blog post with actual words about once or twice a week, talking about this thing I'm calling the 2:10 life, an engaged spiritual life that grows out of Ephesians 2:10, knowing that you are God's art and what does it mean to live out of that. If you like this content, subscribe to my blog, like my Facebook page, share it with a friend. I'll see you next week.